said, do you take your soldiers out first or last after everything's done? You take them out last, sir. A child would know that. We took our soldiers out first.
Well, not only that, we left billions of dollars worth of equipment and military vehicles that they use for parades now. Taliban parade where they've got tanks rolling down the streets and Blackhawks flying is the craziest thing I've ever seen. The fact that we left all that stuff there.
Equipment in the world behind.
What would you have done differently?
Well, number one, we would have taken it out. Just so you go back a little bit further, I had a couple of conversations with Abdul. And from the time I had those conversations, because they were shooting our soldiers, you know, with the sniper stuff, they were shooting a lot of them. They were shooting a lot with Obama, much less with me, but they were shooting them. And I said, get this guy on the phone. The press went nuts when they heard this. I had a great conversation with him. It was a tough conversation. 18 months later, there wasn't one soldier that was ever shot at. And even Biden admitted it in a moment of stupidity because he shouldn't admit it. His people went nuts. He said, yeah, well, I will admit, no soldier. We didn't have a soldier killed in 18 months in Afghanistan. Not one soldier was killed because he understood what was going to happen if that happened. I didn't have one soldier. Then when I left, after having gotten more votes than any sitting president in the history of the country and much more votes than I got in 2016, when I left, they started shooting our soldiers. But more importantly, what they did is they did that whole thing with, leaving. But if Abraham Lincoln was his VP, they couldn't beat you. And I'll never forget it. The following day, they said, something's happening in China, sir. Could we meet? I said, what's happening? People are dying. And it was all around the Wuhan lab, by the way. There are pictures with little lines, their body bags, all around the Wuhan lab. And I always said that from the beginning, Joe. It was, they tried to say, first they said it was France and, they blamed everybody.
Right.
But then they say it was bats from a cave 2,000 miles away. So we got hit with that. And despite that, we had the best economy. And when I gave it over, the stock market was higher than it was pre-COVID. I mean, nobody could even believe it. But we saved it. And we were helping businesses. They were dying. They were dying.
So it's your belief that if you had a second term, given the policies in place, the way the economy was booming, that you would have been able to pay off a lot of the debt. And that was the strategy.
If we didn't have COVID, we would have been paying off debt, and we would have had, and don't forget, by growth, the word growth is actually more important in a way because you could have the same debt, but if you doubled your growth, all of a sudden you're under-levered. But still, we should pay off debt. If you viewed this $35 trillion right now, it's a lot. But if you look at the asset value, if you looked at it purely as an asset value, we have oil underground, we have water, we have mountains, the assets are so enormous. But regardless of that, we've got $35 trillion in debt, we should pay it off. And we would have started paying off debt and probably even given further tax reductions. I want to get it down to 15%. We're going to do more business. But when you get hit with a COVID, everything stops and you have to keep these businesses alive. The businesses were dying. They were just dying. This whole place, this country was going to die.